I want to say something very clearly. I think there is a campaign going on, and I think that more than one, Jason is not the only person who is being targeted right now. The reason I think that is I know that there are at least one other case, and in that other case, which I'm very limited about what I can say, the member received an email from a group that called itself Material Findings, which was apparently a blog on Substack. I looked for it, couldn't find it, claiming to be the editor of this blog, presumably implying that there might be more than one person, but of course it's probably just one person setting this up, who had taken the member's PhD, written 17 years ago, and put it through Turnitin, or something similar. And having put it through Turnitin, lo and behold, they found some overlap with some other PhDs which had been written a few years previously. 17 years ago, Turnitin was in its infancy. Most universities had not adopted it, even if it existed.
Sorry. What is Turnitin?
Turnitin is a plagiarism detection software, but it doesn't actually detect plagiarism. It detects textual overlap. Textual overlap is not necessarily plagiarism. Plagiarism is the theft of ideas, theoretical research ideas. It's the theft of intellectual work, right? That's what plagiarism is. Plagiarism is not using the same phrase that somebody else has used in a previous article. We have to be absolutely clear. We will support them, oppose any kind of trial by media, trial by social media, any kind of attack of that kind. And we will defend their right to a due process within the university, and we will distinguish between genuine plagiarism and accidental textual overlap, right? It happens all the time. And here's the thing, I'm not going to defend plagiarism. I fought for intellectual academic freedom for all my life, right? I'll tell you what, though, I was reading about Galileo, and you know what Galileo did with his students? He got them to copy his texts, right? To teach them how to write in a scientific way. And actually, that's been a long-standing way of teaching for quite a long time. So it's not surprising that people will do more textual overlap than they realize. And the point is, what's happened with these technologies is that we've substituted a proper understanding of what plagiarism is, that is the passing off of other people's research ideas as your own, stealing them and publishing them, for something else, which is, like I say, textual repetition or paraphrasing, failing to cite adequately. Yeah, they're not the same sin, okay? Deliberate stealing of ideas is not the same, and we have to fight to re-establish basic principles. And by the way, eugenics is not a science. Eugenics is a pseudo nonsensical, ideologically idiotic idea, and nobody who professes it should have a position in a university. And I say that as a statistician. It's just crass rubbish, and crass rubbish should not be, doesn't meet an academic standard. So actually, most of those pompous articles by these so-called academic or pseudo-academics in the Times or the Daily Telegraph, we should be turning the fire on them and their critical thinking and intellectual rigor.
It's really important what you mentioned about textual overlap and plagiarism. It's completely different. And those academics who suppose to come forward and say, no, this is not plagiarism. We know, even the referees who read his work or something, they should have come forward. Follows. I never heard about Professor Jason Arday before. I'm working in engineering. He was in different uni and in different topics. I never heard of him until this week, and through social media, and then someone has resigned because of plagiarism. And then when you see it has been cleared of all plagiarism, and the campaign continue continued. I had the graphic that I found, the amount of articles, the harassment. Frankly, he has been killed. For me, it's not a suicide. It's the society who killed him by abandoning him, by all the harassment. Even he thought resigning, it will be the end of it. It became the worst. It's really shame that people who's supposed to protect from this plagiarism fantasy didn't speak up, and for people who has nothing to do with science spoke up. What a shame. I think this is one of the darkest time in history of UK academic.
And of course, you could do it in a targeted way. You target black colleagues because politically that is what they want to do. They want to hound out our black brothers and sisters. And I think we have to recognise the nature of what's going on right now.
The thing about Cambridge University, particularly the fact that there is still a racist academic who is employed by that university. If I was an 18-year-old undergraduate going to Cambridge, what I would want would be a mass student insurgent campaign to get rid of that racist fucker from my institution. Excuse my language. But, I think we have to go on the offensive where we're able to. Sorry, I was talking about James Orr.
Rest in power, Professor Jason Arday. I wanted to speak as a former UCU rep, former UCU branch president, to say, first of all, fundamentally, our institutions are institutionally racist. This has been the case since I began work in universities in 1974. It has got a little bit better, I think, mostly in terms of tokenism. What I want to propose are two things. First of all, as a rep, trying to prove systematic racism against UCU colleagues is extremely difficult. It's very, very difficult to put the evidence together because it's all done informally, because promotion depends as much on recommendation from your superiors, because we work in top-down institutions, because the ideology, and I just want to make a parallel with what's happening around trans issues, because the right going for trans, because it's a wedge issue, they are using these as, so they're trying to pull back gains that have been made over the years by Black Lives Matter and so on. This is part of the politics of what's going on. I think the union has to be much more proactive about how it advises the reps how to take on issues, because I've seen it over and over again. Your colleagues are being treated in a racist way. You know it. Somehow they don't get promoted. How do you prove that their lack of promotion is racism? You fucking know it's racism. You know your colleagues are racist. The racist colleagues get away with it. The fucking, sorry, pardon my English, but you see these white academics getting away with murder, literally, and then they just move off to another institute.
The fact that when he was cleared from the plagiarism by his degree awarding institution, there was nothing from the academic profession saying, stop there, this is an academic judgment and this is what needs to stand. So I know from the kind of liberal people, they got completely muted. And when then our central university threw first Jason and then the faculty under the bus when saying there's new information that came out, no one knew what it was, and it completely muted allies who could have come in I would have expected that the professions coming out, the different Royal Society, all of them saying this is academic standards and we can have our investigation. We don't need any journalists coming out kind of doing this kind of crude text comparison.
It's really shame that people who's supposed to protect from this plagiarism fantasy didn't speak up, and for people who has nothing to do with science spoke up. What a shame. I think this is one of the darkest time in history of UK academic.
When people claim to be race realists, they're neither realist nor scientist nor anything. They are usurpers. They are people in the same way that climate denial is usurping, or flat earth people do not. There isn't academic freedom. It's not the freedom to publish garbage, because one of the reasons that people are not speaking out is fear. Another reason is because they think that there's merit in any ramblings in the Daily Telegraph, because they read the Daily Telegraph. We may not read the Daily Telegraph, but they do occasionally they sell some newspapers, and some people seem to read them online. So they have influence. And the fact that the Daily Telegraph led the Lynch mob is absolutely to be condemned.
I had this graphic, the amount of articles of clueless people talking about topics they don't know. And these are the news, and these are the number of articles before, after resignation, and after his death. See how the madness went. And the biggest bigot here, it's the Time, of course, and then the Telegraph. So why all this kind of ridiculous? Even yesterday in the vigil, they were mentioning 249 articles, just shame.
It's a Lynch mob.
It's a Lynch mob, yeah.
Most of those pompous articles by these so-called academic or pseudo-academics in the Times or the Daily Telegraph, we should be turning the fire on them and their critical thinking and intellectual rigor. Victoria's rightly said,
Yes.
How many journalists plagiarise? They all do.
I think they all, yes.
I don't think that's the point. It's kind of like, how dare you do plagiarism? That's our thing.
Every rubbish, they put it there.
You probably saw more of that than I did.
Not especially, because I didn't read the Times or the Daily Telegraph.
Oh yeah, I don't read that.
Why is it of anybody's interest that one racist public issues something where he raises a complaint against another academic that goes into about alleged plagiarism in their PhD thesis?
Yeah,
Why is that a news story?